when the opportunity arises, we have to take it, right? We might not know how to do it or why or when or where. It might not be perfect. Get ahead of the fear. If you're thinking of doing something different or something great, go for it. And more importantly, always bet on yourself. Even when other people might not have the courage in you, or you might not have the courage in yourself, bet on yourself, because most times things are going to work out. But the best advice I can give is laughter is the best medicine.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cade and welcome to Rocket Motivation. This week's guest was confronted with an unexpected opportunity that required a split-second decision on whether he was going to take it. He said yes, and his decision catapulted his life into a direction that has led to great success as a speaker, podcaster, and happiness coach. He has a great story of making the most out of an opportunity.
3, 2, 1.
Greg Kettner, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Great, Rod. Thanks for having me on, and happy to be here.
All right. Hey, Greg, so tell the listeners kind of where you are now in your life, where you live, what you do.
Sure. I live in Walla Walla, Washington, southeast portion of Washington State. We're known for our sweet onions and our Cab Sav wine. We have about 200 wineries in town. I've been here for 5 years, and like you said in the intro, I work with organizations on how to work happy so that they can be more productive, reduce turnover, and give people the opportunity to speak about mental health at work and not to feel shameful about it, but to reach out when people need to, because as we all know, during COVID, mental health has been forefront, and we need to help each other and talk about it and normalize that conversation.
Okay. And I'm going to get into that more in depth here in a little bit. I want to go back to where, as I said in the intro, this big opportunity that you had and that you took. Set the scene for us, kind of where you were. You were out at a sales meeting in Las Vegas, but what were you doing, what the opportunity was, and what happened?
Yeah. I was working for a software company, SAP. I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time. In my territory, I was selling software into government agencies in Texas and Oklahoma. And every year we had an annual sales kickoff in Las Vegas. So we'd overtake the Bellagio Hotel. There was about 4,000 salespeople from across North America. And it was a week long of meetings and training and entertaining, all that kind of stuff. And it just happened, I got my lucky break. It was a Wednesday night, and I remember it because it was my birthday. At the biggest event that the company put on every year was the awards banquet. And I don't know what the budget was, but the house band was Lenny Kravitz, and the number one salesperson got a brand new Porsche. So it was a pretty major event.
There was some money involved.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Okay, so tell us what happens. All right, you're there, and what happens next?
So I was sitting at the very back of the room next to the exit door with 10 other people that I had not met yet. We all worked for the same company, and it was a 3-hour program. It was a Wednesday night. There was awards and entertainment and all this kind of stuff. So we're sitting there, and 7 minutes into this 3-hour program, the MC said something so horrible that he got fired on stage. They cut the microphone. The house lights came on, the band started playing, and the room went very, very awkwardly silent. And we were all kind of like looking at each other and going, wow, what's the next 3 hours going to be? And so I didn't think anything of it. I continued to eat the amazing meal. And then about 5 minutes later, over the PA system, a voice said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're so sorry for what just happened. We want to apologize, but we also want to let you know we're going to be restarting the entire program in 15 minutes. And if anyone knows where Greg Kettner is, we need to talk to him immediately." And that's when I froze. I had no idea.
When you hear that, what's going through your mind?
Honestly, how much did I drink last night and who was I talking to? I honestly thought I was getting sent home early.
Yeah, so you thought you were getting ready to get fired. Okay, yeah. Tell the listeners what happened.
Yeah. And so, that came over the PA system, and nobody at my table knew me. And so I thought, well, I don't want to go home. I'm having too much fun. So I didn't say anything. And then 5 minutes later, they made the announcement again and said, if anyone knows where Greg is seated, his room number, his cell phone number. And that's when I joked, my former friend Trevor came running over from 3 or 4 tables over and said, "Dude, they want you to go do stand-up. Here's your opportunity. You're in Vegas. You got a sold-out crowd, 4,000 people. You're never going to have this again." And so thankful to my friend Trevor, drug me up to the stage, which seemed like a mile away. And I looked to my left and there was the exit door. And had I taken that exit door, we wouldn't be talking and I wouldn't be, helping people work happy. So, and I told them who I was. And they said, great, we need your help. I said, well, how can I help? They said, well, you saw what just happened. We fired the guy. He's out of the building already. And I said, yeah, no, I would hate to follow that. And the gal said, that's exactly what we need you to do. And I said, yeah. You want me to go up in front of 4,000 people, impromptu? She goes, yeah. She goes, we heard you're a stand-up comedian. But what she didn't know was that I had only been doing stand-up for about 8 months. So I had about 5 minutes of fart and poop jokes. And she said, you know what? Just go up there, take the taste out of everybody's mouth, get them off of what just happened, and we'll go from there. And that's when I realized the lesson of when the opportunity arises, we have to take it, right? We might not know how to do it or why or when or where. It might not be perfect. But I said, sure, let's go for it. Because I'm never going to be able to tell my kids or Rod Kate this story if I didn't go for it. So I'm backstage.
I guess you killed it.
Yeah, no, it worked out well. So I'm backstage and they're wiring me with a lapel mic. I'd never been in front of an audience more than 20 people in a pub before. So they're wiring me up. I couldn't remember any of my jokes, let alone my name hardly. And I remember I was standing on the steps on the back of the stage's massive royal blue curtain. The gentleman went out to introduce me and he said, again, we're sorry for what just happened. We want to apologize, but lucky for us, we're in Vegas. And one of our own is a very, very funny stand-up comedian, to which I turned around and looked behind me. I thought they had somebody else lined up to follow me. So he introduced me, he says, please welcome Greg Kettner. And I stumbled out with confidence onto this massive stage, blinding lights and a standing ovation. I didn't know really how to start or say anything. So I kind of looked around the room. I picked the middle of the stage and I just looked up at the audience. I said, my name is Greg Kettner and I can't do any worse than that guy. Right there I had him. I was one of their own. I stood up. I hadn't even finished my dinner.
Ice broken and ready to go.
Yeah, and when I connected with laughter, their hearts opened up like, okay, we're cheering for this guy. He's one of our own. And so I had 15 minutes. I could see the clock on the stage. I told a couple of jokes about Vegas or whatnot. And then as time was winding down, there was about 13 minutes left. I thought, you know what? I'm in sales. I've been in sales my whole life. Here's an opportunity for me to sell myself. Because that year, if you hit the number for President's Club, a certain sales amount, you got to go on a cruise ship through Turkey, Italy, and Greece to take someone with you. It was a $10,000 trip. And up until that point, Rod, I was nowhere near getting on the boat. I'd had a bad couple of quarters in sales. And so I just admitted that in front of 4,000 people. I said, hey, you know what? I let my team down. I let you guys down. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of helping out the company right now. Is there any way I can get on the boat? And that was it. I shut up. And it seemed like forever, but it must have been 10, 15 seconds later. A gentleman from the front of the room walked up to the stage. He says, kid, you're on the boat. I said, hey, I'm on the boat. I'm going to club. Again, another standing ovation. And I leaned back down. I said, who are you? And he goes, I'm the president of the company. I'll make sure you get on the boat. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes earlier, I'd been sitting eating dinner with 10 people I didn't know, to going up on stage in Vegas, to winning the $10,000 trip. But it was at that point, as I walked off the stage, I looked at the back of the room, Rod, for that exit sign. And I thought, you know what? Always say yes, even though you don't know what you're going to say. And more importantly, always bet on yourself. Even when other people might not have the courage in you, or you might not have the courage in yourself, bet on yourself, because most times things are going to work out.
And let me ask you this. So how was saying yes in this case, and then, you go up on stage, you do your stand-up, how has it changed and catapulted your life into what you do now? I mean, how was that the stepping stone?
I'd always wanted to do stand-up and make money at it. But at that point, it was, 8 months in, and you're lucky, if you're getting a burger and a beer. But it was at that moment that it gave me such confidence that I could do it, and I could do what I wanted to do. And always wanted to be a performer, stand-up comedian. But, I did that for about 6 years. It just doesn't pay. And then that whole idea of getting up on stage and working with corporations, I started from that event. Some people talked about me when I went back to Vancouver, and I had some other companies reach out to me to come and do some corporate speaking for them. And, here we are 10 years later, where I'm traveling around the world, helping organizations to work happy. And how do we do that, right?
And it starts with the comedian that was supposed to go on saying something very bad that got him kicked off the stage, and you jump and you take the opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's a life lesson for any of us, right? I mean, whether I didn't have the confidence in myself, Trevor gave me the confidence to get backstage. And then once I got back to it, I said, all right, kid, you're in. Let's go do this. And now I have the confidence that I can go anywhere and speak in front of anybody because of that one opportunity.
So when companies hire you for their events, and so they hire you for a speaking engagement, what message do you bring, and how do you get it across to the audience?
I think I have an advantage over other speakers in that I have both worked in the corporate world and in stand-up. So I have the ability to be memorable by making people laugh, because you know as well as I do, when we go and speak, 2 weeks later, people are, well, who was that? And what did they talk about? But when you can make somebody laugh, it makes it that much more sticky. And so when I go and work with people, I have a program, the Work Happy Game Plan. It's 9 steps on how to take your organization from being stressed to self-care, from taking employees from who are lonely, feel like community again, and from being disengaged to productive. And there's simple, easy steps that we can do that. And throughout the workshop or the training, I share funny stories of working with Robin Williams. I tell the Las Vegas story. All these kind of things come together. And it's just reminding people that we need to put people before profits in our businesses, and things will work out even better than we'd hoped.
Yeah. Well, and how did you get it into that part of the, companies hire people for speaking for events, for all kinds of things. How was it that you went from your stand-up to the Work Happy Game Plan? How did you kind of cross that bridge?
That kind of materialized over 10 years. At the time I was with SAP, I was there for another 6-8 months, and then started to get booked more and more on doing stand-up comedy. So I hit the road and performed across Canada and the US. Got to share the stage with the likes of both the late Robin Williams and Norm Macdonald, Gilbert Godfrey. So some of these bigger guys that kind of took me under their wings and helped me do that. And then when I was doing a show in Medford, Oregon, after the show, I was on Facebook and I reconnected with a friend from college. She's like, I saw you in Medford doing a show. And we ended up talking for 3 hours that night. And then 3 months later, we started dating. And 4 years after that, we got married. And so when you are married, you can't be on the road 300 nights a year, right? And so I was living in Walla Walla, working for the Chamber of Commerce, doing membership services. And then COVID hit. I was told I was non-essential, which I disagreed with. And so I give a lot of credit to my wife. Obviously I was hurt and upset. I'd been, recently married, and now I lost my job and all this. And she said, she says, you like making people happy. You enjoy sales. You enjoy people. What about helping people work happy? And I said, that's it. How can I go and help other organizations who are overworked, overstressed? How can I go in and remind them that we need laughter? A recent study I found, kids laugh up to 300 times every day, Rod. Guess how many times adults laugh?
I'm going to say 5.
17. You're close. But there's a huge disconnect, right? I mean, I know we're stressed and we have to pay the mortgage and we have all this responsibility and stuff, but when we laugh, it releases those happy endorphins and it takes away stress. It helps us be more productive. It helps us be more creative, and it helps with our relationships. I can have some tough conversations with my 17-year-old daughter if there's laughter involved, right? Instead of being stern all the time.
Right. And so you also do a podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Work Happy podcast. Looking forward to having you on it as well. But I just reach out to people, typically in the sports world. That's where most of my sales career was in, and just having them share their stories. How do they work happy? How do they, if you've worked 12 days in a row and the team's 0-3 and people's spirits are down, what do they do to motivate their people? How do they motivate themselves to look for the positive, to, look on the bright side of life? And so I've interviewed National Hockey League players, VPs from sports teams, and just everyday regular people that have that personality that are positive and full of joy.
Well, I'd love to come on your show, and I can tell you how I work happy every day.
Yeah, right. How do you work happy?
I'll save it for your
Yeah, that's
show.
perfect. Okay, perfect. It's a teaser though.
Yeah, just a little tease. So, Greg, when you're confronted with potential opportunities in life, and based on what you've been through, what advice do you give?
Go for it. And I've learned this later in life. I'm 50 now, but I try not to have any regrets. But the one regret I have is that I wasn't doing this when I was 30. But the 30-year-old me didn't have the experience. So if there is an opportunity, go for it. Don't be afraid to fail. A lot of us, it's fear that gets in the way, right? We have the desire, we have the want, we have the knowledge. But if we're still fearful, so I would say that get out in front of fear and do what you want to do. I grew up in a great home. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. My brother's a psychologist. My sister's a teacher, and I'm the clown, I guess. But, when I was growing up, it was like, go to school, get an education, have the family, work real hard, retire. And now my thinking is more do what makes you happy, because if you're not, we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others, right? Like in my situation, my family, if I'm not taking care of myself and in the right headspace or happy, how am I going to show that and help my daughter or my wife to be happy and live happy? So I need to take care of myself.
And one thing you said that I think is so important about that, don't be afraid to fail. And a large part of that is, some people, they don't take chances, they don't take opportunities because they are afraid to fail. Because I think that oh my gosh, if I fail, I am a failure. Yeah. And I think part of this, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. If you take yourself so seriously, then if you fail, you're just going to, go into a hole and cover up. But if you can laugh at yourself and you fail, you're like, look, hey, I gave it a shot. It didn't work. We move on.
Yeah. And I don't know who, I wish I could give credit, but somebody once said, failing is not failing is learning, right? Yeah. And Thomas Edison's the example of that, right? When he said, I haven't failed at making the light bulb. I found so many ways that didn't work, but I found the right way, eventually.
Right. Yeah. So, Greg, and to broaden this out to the advice, what advice would you give to the listeners that, people out there just say they're having some tough times or going through adversity? What advice would you give to them?
That's a great question. I think it's, probably adaptable or different for everybody, but I think if people are going through tough times and really struggling, one of the best things any human can do is reach out to someone else, right? Because when we have a connection, when we have conversations or just blow off steam with somebody else, it makes us feel that much better. And as humans, we're empathetic people and we want to help each other. So I think reaching out is very key. But again, take time for myself. I need to be selfish. When I wake up in the mornings, for me, it's I do meditation, exercise, and reading for an hour and a half before the girls are even up. So that's how I get my mindset framed. Mental health is very important as well too. We have a group here in our town called Men in the Middle, because we found that the highest rate of suicide is men 25 to 45. And so it's a group of guys, and it hasn't been as big as we want to just because of COVID. But, we get on once a month, we have conversations. We'll go out and hit golf balls, go to a pub, have a pint. But when we do that, when we build relationships with other guys, when stuff goes sideways in my life, whether it's my marriage or my job or my kids or my finances, I can call Cody, I can call Tom, I can call Jim and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help. What advice would you give? So I think when people are there, it's tough to see, light at the end of the tunnel at times. But if we just reach out, whether it's a loved one or a friend or a coworker, it's so cathartic to have someone else listen to what you're going through and offer their help.
Right. If somebody wants to hire you, to follow you, wants to listen to your podcast, or just get in touch with you, Greg, what's the best way they can do that?
Probably the best way, Rod, is either on LinkedIn. It's just Greg Kettner. I haven't found any others there. Or even easier than that is just my website, which is gregkettner.com.
Okay, great. And I like to do this in all the shows. And Greg, it's been great having you on. This has been a great show. But I always like to give my guests the parting shots to kind of to dig deep. And you've already given some great advice. But kind of take us home here, Greg. What can you do to bring us home on this show?
I would say to any listeners, get ahead of the fear. If you're thinking of doing something different or something great, go for it. But the best advice I can give is laughter is the best medicine. Whether you're struggling with work or life, if we take time out and laugh, it resets our brain. It makes us feel better. And then we can make better decisions from there. So when we're laughing, and also too, laughter is a form of communication. And I've never been with somebody I didn't like and was laughing, right? If you're having a conversation and you're laughing, there's something there that connects you. There's something there that bonds you. And as humans, we just need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other and taking care of our world.
What a great way to end the show. I can't tell you how pleased and honored I am to have you on my show. This has been great. This is going to be one of my better shows, and just thanks so much.
Well, you're welcome, Rod. Thanks for all you do. And I'm definitely looking forward to having you on my podcast as well, and keep up the great work that you do. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Rod.
What a great episode with Greg Kettner. The obvious takeaway is to say yes to the opportunities that come your way. Next week's guest is Emily King. She's been battling colon cancer, but at the same time provides care packages and support to other cancer patients. Her story is one of inspiration. It's going to be a great show. See you next week. Thanks for listening to my podcast. It's all about allowing regular people to tell their stories of inspiration and motivation. If you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cade, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.